It was July 10, 2015, when Jessica Mitchell and her boyfriend, Vernal Dior Kunz Sr., decided to spend a weekend in the Idaho wilderness, bringing along their 2-year-old son, Dior Kunz Jr. Their destination was Timber Creek Campground, a remote and quiet area near the Salmon Chalice National Forest, where time seems to slow down and silence thickens among the trees. With them were also the child's grandfather, Robert Walton, and a family friend, Isaac Rainwand. It was a typical camping trip, filled with campfires, fresh air, and that deep peace only nature can provide. No one, not even for a moment, could have imagined that this trip would turn into an unsolved mystery. Around 2:35 p.m., little Dior appeared to have vanished into thin air. According to the parents' statements, they were preparing for a walk and assumed the child had stayed with his grandfather. But Robert Walton, for his part, believed the boy was with his parents. Just a few minutes of confusion were enough to realize that no one actually knew where Dior was. The forest around them was vast, intricate, and hostile, full of hidden streams, steep slopes, and inaccessible areas. The search began immediately. Authorities were alerted, helicopters flew over the area, and search dogs were brought in. But there was no trace of the child, no discarded clothing, no tiny footprints in the mud, nothing. In the following days, the entire county joined the search. Hundreds of volunteers combed every corner of the forest, even the roughest terrain. But as the hours passed, so did hope, and cracks began to form in the story. The accounts given by the parents did not always match. Details shifted, small inconsistencies in their narratives that, when pieced together, created a sense of uncertainty. Some investigators began asking questions. How could a 2-year-old wander off alone in such a dangerous area without anyone noticing? And why couldn't the search dogs pick up even a trace of his scent? The community, initially united in support, began to split. Some believed it was a tragic accident, while others whispered darker theories. Meanwhile, the family often appeared on television, pleading for their child's return. But something in their behavior puzzled investigators, enough that, in the months that followed, both Jessica and Vernal were named persons of interest in the case. However, they were never formally charged with any crime. The investigation continued, though progress slowed. The FBI, which joined the case in an effort to shed light on what happened, found no conclusive evidence pointing to either an accident or a crime. Every lead seemed to dissolve into nothing, just like Dior had. Some local experts ruled out the possibility of an animal attack, noting the complete absence of signs of a struggle or blood. Others suggested the child might have been kidnapped, but the isolated location of the campsite made that scenario unlikely as well. The only certainty was the void the little boy left behind. No body, no belongings, no clues. Only hypotheses, questions, and a long string of what-ifs. As the years passed, the mystery only deepened. Photos of Dior, with his blonde hair and light eyes, remained on billboards throughout Idaho, while time marched on. Some private investigators hired by the family eventually withdrew from the case, saying they could no longer support the parents' version of events. That, too, fueled suspicion. Yet, without evidence, there are no culprits, only questions. Questions that, to this day, remain unanswered. It was the night of October 3, 2011, in Kansas City, Missouri. The air was still warm, with autumn slowly creeping in among the dry leaves and lengthening shadows. Inside a house on North Lister Avenue, 10-month-old Lisa Irwin slept in her crib, unaware of the storm about to consume her world. Her mother, Deborah Bradley, said she had put Lisa to bed around 10:30 p.m. Then, exhausted, she also fell asleep. When the father, Jeremy Irwin, returned home from a night shift around 4:00 a.m., he found the lights on, the door open, and the crib empty. Lisa was gone. Panic spread in seconds. Jeremy called 911 at 4:00 a.m. His voice was full of anxiety. "My baby's been kidnapped." So began one of the largest and most mysterious missing child investigations in Missouri's recent history. Police arrived immediately, and within hours the entire neighborhood was locked down. Officers searched every home, alley, and wooded area nearby. But time passed, and Lisa seemed to have disappeared without a trace. There were no signs of forced entry, no screams in the night, no eyewitnesses, just an empty crib, and a deafening silence. In those early frantic hours, a disturbing detail emerged. 3 of the family's cell phones were missing. No one knew where they had gone, as if someone had deliberately taken them. That same night, a mysterious call was made from one of those phones to an unknown number. When investigators traced the call, they discovered it was linked to a woman who, reportedly, had no known connection to the family. The lead remained unresolved, never fully explained. Deborah later admitted in interviews that she had drunk a few glasses of wine that evening and had fallen into a deep sleep. The media began to focus on her behavior, the gaps in her memory, and the difficulty she had reconstructing exactly what had happened. Some investigators expressed doubt about the consistency of her story. There was talk of a failed lie detector test and contradictions that piled up day by day. The media pressure became suffocating, and the parents' home turned into a hub for TV crews, onlookers, and private detectives. In the midst of all this, reports started coming in from all over the country. Some claimed to have seen Lisa in Texas. Others swore they had encountered her in Florida. One of the most discussed sightings came from India, where a girl resembling Lisa was seen with an American couple. But every lead quickly fell apart. DNA tests, photo comparisons, cross-checks, everything led to a dead end. The blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl seemed to have vanished like mist in the sun. Authorities have never formally charged anyone. Despite intense interrogations and the many theories that have surfaced over the years, there was never enough evidence to go to trial. Jeremy and Deborah have always denied any involvement, maintaining that their daughter was kidnapped. Over time, however, public interest faded. The posters faded, the candles from vigils burned out, and the balloons left outside the house became quiet remnants of a hope slowly eroding. Lisa Irwin remains one of the most well-known missing children in America. Her photos, taken before that night, are still posted in missing persons databases, alongside age-progressed images showing what she might look like today. And while her room remains frozen in time, the question that still haunts everyone is the same. What really happened that night? It was May 11, 2011, when 6-year-old Timothy Pitson was picked up from school by his mother, Amy Fry Pitson. On the surface, it seemed like an ordinary day, but something in her actions revealed a sense of urgency. She told school staff there was a family emergency, and without any suspicion or resistance, she left the building with her son. From that moment on, their story became an enigmatic journey, marked by mysterious stops, anonymous hotels, and blurry images caught by surveillance cameras. Mother and son were seen together in various locations across Illinois. Happy, relaxed. A day at an amusement park, a visit to the zoo, a night in a hotel. It seemed like a spontaneous little vacation, a gesture of maternal love. But beneath that surface of normalcy, something deeply unsettling was taking shape. On May 13th, 2 days after their disappearance, Amy was found dead in a motel room in Rockford, Illinois. She had left behind 3 letters. In one, handwritten and addressed to her family, she claimed that Timothy was safe, that he was with people who would take good care of him, and that he would never be found. Her words were cold, precise, calculated. No information about where the boy was or with whom. Just that chilling sentence. No one will ever find him. The room showed no signs of a struggle, no trace of the child, just personal items, a Bible, and the invisible tears of a mystery that had just begun. Authorities began to reconstruct the path taken in the 2 days prior. Surveillance footage showed Timothy holding his mother's hand as they entered a resort, then in a candy shop, then in the parking lot of a water park. But after May 13th, no more images, no witnesses, nothing. The boy seemed to have vanished off the face of the earth. Investigators examined Amy's car and found traces of grass and soil suggesting she had stopped in a rural area not accounted for in her known movements. There was talk of a quarry, an isolated field, a dirt road used only by tractors. But every search turned up nothing. No footprints, no witnesses, only speculation and sorrow. As the years passed, the case took on increasingly surreal overtones. In 2019, a 14-year-old boy was found wandering in Kentucky. He claimed to be Timothy Pitson, saying he had escaped from 2 men who had held him captive for years. For a moment, hope filled the air. News outlets lit up. Newspapers revisited the case, and the family held their breath. But then came the DNA results. It wasn't him. He was a young man with mental health issues, already known to authorities, and his story collapsed under the weight of harsh reality. Timothy, meanwhile, remains a photograph etched into the collective memory. A boy with light eyes, a bright smile, and a childhood cut short by one last car ride with his mother. Today, digitally aged images attempt to show what he might look like as a teenager, but each rendering is only a guess. No physical trace of him has ever been found, no solid clue. Only that letter, Amy's final message, still echoing like a painful riddle. He is safe. No one will ever find him. It was the night between February 13th and 14th, 2000, in the quiet town of Shelby, North Carolina. Heavy rain fell, and the wind rattled the window panes. Inside their home, the Degree family slept. Harold and Aquila, loving and attentive parents, had tucked their 2 children into bed as usual. O'Brien, the older brother, and Asha, their 9-year-old daughter. It was Sunday night. The next day would be Valentine's Day, and Asha, shy and responsible, had spent the afternoon at home, relaxing after a basketball game that hadn't gone as she'd hoped. Around 8:30 p.m., she turned off the lights in the bedroom she shared with her brother. Everything seemed normal. But in a few short hours, the Degree family's world would be shattered, quietly and without warning. Around 2:30 a.m., Harold woke up to check on the children. He saw both of them sleeping in their beds. Nothing seemed unusual. But when Aquila went to wake them at 6:30 a.m. to get ready for school, Asha's bed was empty. The covers were neatly folded. There were no signs of forced entry or broken windows. Just a closed door and an inexplicable silence. After the first moments of panic, the mother called the police. Thus began a frantic search, driven by hope and fueled by fear. A 9-year-old girl had disappeared in the middle of the night, leaving behind only questions. That morning, unsettling details emerged. 2 motorists reported seeing a young girl walking alone along Highway 18 around 4 o'clock a.m. She was wearing light-colored pants, a long-sleeved shirt, and was carrying a bag. A surreal sight, in the darkness and the pouring rain. When one of the drivers tried to approach and offer help, the girl panicked and ran into the woods. No one knew what she was doing there or why she had left her house voluntarily. The relentless rain had washed away any trace, making the search dog's task nearly impossible. 3 days later, investigators found some of Asha's belongings in an abandoned shed a few miles from her home. There were candy wrappers, a pencil, a hair bow, but nothing that explained where she had gone or why. The discovery felt like a message left behind in time, a trail that suddenly ended with no direction. Years later, in 2001, came an even more chilling discovery. Her school backpack was found, sealed inside a trash bag and buried along a highway construction site in Burke County. It was more than 30 miles from Shelby, far too far for a 9-year-old girl to travel alone in the night. Every new clue only seemed to deepen the mystery. Authorities found no evidence of abuse or trouble at home. No credible suspects, no clear motive. It seemed as if Asha had left of her own free will. But why? One theory suggested she had been inspired by a book read at school, in which a girl runs away and has an adventure on her own. But in the real world, there was no happy ending. No phone calls, no confirmed sightings. Only emptiness. And the image of a little girl with neat braids and wide eyes vanished into the darkness. Asha Degree has never been found. Her disappearance remains one of the most baffling cases in the United States. Every year, on February 14th, her family organizes a walk to keep public attention on the case. They walk along the same road where she was last seen. Maybe, someday, somewhere, someone will remember something. But until that day comes, there is only the mystery and the silence Asha left behind. It was June 4th, 2010, and Portland, Oregon was waking up to what seemed like an ordinary early summer day. School was nearly out for the year. The air was mild, and the clear sky promised another peaceful day. That morning, 7-year-old Kyron Horman woke up full of excitement. Skyline Elementary School was hosting a science fair, and he was proud of his project on tree frogs. He wore a CSI t-shirt and his glasses, which gave him the look of a little scientist. His stepmother, Terry Moulton Horman, drove him to school as usual. They arrived around 8 a.m. Together they walked through the hallways, looking at other students' projects, and even took a photo of Kyron standing in front of his display board. It is the last known image of the boy. A shy smile, curious eyes, unaware that within moments he would vanish without a trace. At 8:45 a.m., Terry said she left Kyron near his classroom and watched him walk toward it. However, according to the teachers, Kyron never showed up for class. When his biological mother, Desiree Young, and his father, Kane Horman, arrived at the school bus stop at 3:30 p.m. and realized Kyron had never gotten on the bus, panic set in immediately. The school staff was questioned right away. No one recalled seeing Kyron after 9 a.m. The school had not marked him absent, and no one notified the parents until that afternoon. It was as if the boy had been swallowed by an invisible crack in the walls of the school. Authorities launched one of the largest search efforts in Oregon's history. Volunteers, search dogs, helicopters, and divers combed every inch of the surrounding area, but nothing emerged. No trace. No items left behind. No witnesses who could definitively say they saw him leaving the school. Discrepancies began to surface. Terry's cell phone was analyzed. Data showed that between 9 and 10 a.m., instead of being at home as she claimed, she was in a remote rural area. She said she had gone for a drive to calm a headache. But why lie? Weeks passed and media pressure intensified. Authorities never officially named a suspect, but public scrutiny focused heavily on Terry. Some family friends reported that she often complained about Kyron and that the relationship between them was strained. Then, a twist. Kyron's father, Kane, moved out of the house with their younger daughter and obtained a restraining order against Terry. He claimed that law enforcement had informed him of an alleged plot by Terry to have him killed, using a former landscaper as a go-between. The investigation never led to charges, but it deepened the suspicion. Despite interrogations, tips, and rewards, the case remained shrouded in mystery. There was never a confession, no body, not a single piece of evidence that could explain what really happened on June 4th. The image of Kyron, smiling in his detective t-shirt, remains etched in the minds of all who followed the case. A little boy who vanished in broad daylight from a public school, in front of everyone and no one.